How it's going to be impacted further as you see the diplomatic relation between India and China?
As the Chinese economy is aging very rapidly, more manufacturing would shift to India.
What is the GDP of India in dollar terms?
4.19 trillion.
How many events were you handling? 1 day, 2 day, or how many events were there in a day? How many events did you handle?
I handled in the annual fest, I handled 2 or 3 events per fest.
All right, Vinayak. So you have graduated from Deshbandhu College, right?
Yeah, I'm currently in my final year.
So you're currently in your final year. Final year, all right. So your college is named after whom?
Lala Deshbandhu Gupta.
And who was he?
He was a freedom fighter.
All right, all right. And you have a degree in the discipline of economics and minor of
Minor in
mathematics.
mathematics.
All right. Okay. तो x स्क्वायर का ग्राफ कैसा होता है?
X square का
हाँ.
uh, goes like this, I guess. In the first quadrant.
What is the figure called?
Yeah.
Figure called. x स्क्वायर का जो ग्राफ बनेगा उसको फिगर भी क्या बोलते हैं?
Parabola.
अपवर्ड बनेगा डाउनवर्ड बनेगा?
Upward.
All right.
So I think economics is your major discipline, right?
Yeah.
And what all subjects do you have in your third year?
Third year.
You currently in your third year, right?
Yeah. So we had Indian economy, development economics, public economics, and international trade.
Okay. And out of these, which ones is your favorite?
I'd have to go with international trade.
International trade.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the trade deficit India has with its major? Who's the major trading partner, and what's the trade surplus or deficit India has with them?
India's major trading partners include China, USA, and the Middle East. So we are major exporters with we are major exporters of services as well as agricultural commodities with China and US, and we export agricultural commodities also to African nations, right? The Middle East and North Africa area. And our major imports include crude oil only from the Middle East.
Right. So with China, what's our trade surplus or deficit?
We are in trade deficit. I remember we are in a trade surplus with only a couple of countries, and we have a very large trade deficit as of now.
Yeah.
And
You don't know the number of the
yeah, I
amount
don't.
in dollars.
How it's going to be impacted further as you see the diplomatic relation between India and China?
Sorry, sir. Could you please repeat?
Now we see the diplomatic relations between India and China. So how it is going to impact further on this?
I think as the Chinese economy is aging very rapidly, more manufacturing would shift to India, and that would be a sort of hindrance to China-India relations. As China is a very, I would say, they aim towards global domination, and to see their manufacturing and the services shift towards India would sort of pose a risk to our, I would say, relation. And I recently read in yesterday's newspaper, I guess, that India has also recently imposed anti-dumping duties on China as well, with respect to 3 goods. So I think
You have a minor subject in mathematics, still you don't know numbers.
I haven't.
Numbers are important. Numbers, especially economics, is so much linked to mathematics, and given you have minors in mathematics, you should know the numbers. So let's stick to a few economics question. Let's start with very basic. What is the GDP of India in dollar terms?
4.19 trillion, I guess.
Okay, and this is real GDP or nominal?
Nominal GDP.
Nominal GDP.
And what is the year-on-year growth?
Year-on-year growth, I think it was around 6.5, 6.6.
And where we lie in the world's perspective? At what rank? In the growth
Nominal
terms?
or per capita?
Growth terms. Forget that.
Per capita, we are at, I remember, 125th. If we are comparing purchasing power parity, but if we are comparing just the nominal GDP in respect of per capita terms, we are at 140th, I remember.
Okay, and what's the per capita GDP India has?
something around $2,910.
Are you sure?
That's the last I remember.
And what was your last?
And because you said nominal is 4.1 trillion, right?
Yeah.
What's India's population? Roughly.
Close to 1.6 billion now.
1.6 already.
Close to, not
And how
1.6.
is this population increasing? What is the year-on-year trend? 2023 to 2024, how much we have increased?
I don't know, sir.
Any rough number?
No, I would.
Okay, less than 2%, more than 2%.
Hmm, I actually have no idea.
Think about it. 2% of 1.7 billion. What would be 2% of 1.7 billion? Minor arithmetics.
So, no, I'm just calculating.
Hmm.
I think 1.45. I'm going from 1.45 to 1.55. So
Okay.
I'm calculating that.
Is the current population of India is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm calculating the year-on-year growth as 1.45 increases to 1.55. I'm sort of trying to
Okay.
calculate that.
So that's 0.1 upon 1.5.
Yeah, 1.55.
So what is that ratio?
That is less than, I would say.
That's 1 by 15, so approximately 6.5%, right? Do you think that's a growth rate on the, if assuming that is true, that's a correct number,
Then we'll
is
double
that a
that.
high number or a low population growth number?
That's a very high population growth number.
By that growth number, how much time will take to get developed?
It would take 1 upon. I don't remember.
Anyways, it's just 0.9%.
Sorry, sir?
Just 0.9%.
The growth year-on-year growth of Indian
And
population.
last time
Year-on-year
it was 0.8 or 0.7, somewhere around that. So we are always less than 1. So far yet.
So who are the top 5 nations by nominal GDP?
US, China, Germany, Japan, and India.
Is that in the right order?
No, it's. Yeah, it's in the right.
It's in the Germany is above Japan, is it?
No, yeah, sorry.
So right order is?
US, China, Japan, Germany, and India.
Okay. Alright.
I'm also not sure about the right order, but you should check and have a confident answer there.
Okay, walk us through your work routine daily. So you are a research intern and you performed market research, right?
Yeah.
So just brief me about this particular thing.
It was more sort of qualitative research rather than quantitative. And I was to sort of gather opinions online. I was to, assess Google forms of people. I circulated forms regarding how people perceive services regarding your relationships, romantic, platonic, otherwise. So I had to assess those, how people responded to services, whether people required this, whether people thought this was obsolete, or whether they thought it was crucial that this
Was
was.
there any percentage again, you were looking for who require it, who need it, who do not need it? So was there any percentage of people incorporated into that, or there was no numbers again at all?
There was a percentage.
I got that.
If I remember correctly, 63% of the people
Yeah.
thought that relationship-based services should be provided,
Okay.
whereas I think a very small percentage, somewhere around 37%, were ready to pay for it.
Okay.
They sort of wanted those free trials, and they thought that one or two demo sessions would suffice, and they were not very keen on paying for it.
So how much time do you spend in a day for this particular research?
The tasks were delegated to me on a per week basis, and there were 2 tasks per week, so I had no deadlines. I just to submit and sort of report my
So
findings.
you were taking this survey, right?
Yeah.
And how do you choose the people for this survey? What were the people who responded to your survey?
It was a very randomized survey, so I sent it out to my relatives, my friends, my I'd say I circulated it on any group I would find. So there were a lot
Which
of
kind of group?
WhatsApp groups in
So
college.
somewhere down the line, they were linked with you.
Yeah,
Down the line, they were linked with you, right?
yeah.
So was your survey biased or unbiased?
It was certainly biased because there was a high percentage of respondents within my age group.
So
That
what
is,
kind of a market research it is if it is a biased survey? It is just the people who
no,
belong to,
we
the
not.
class where you are.
These surveys are one thing we actually studied in research methodology was that bias studies can also provide you with very, I would say, informative answers, but you have to take them with a pinch of salt. So you have to normalize the results. You can't go and say that if 60% of the people in my research are doing this, then 60% of the people in the population will do this. You'll say that there's a deviation of this percentage, that this if there's a standard deviation of, I'd say, 5 percentage points.
So forget it. What was the mode of survey? How did you conduct this survey?
Google Forms.
Google Forms, right? So how do you know that the person actually read your question and mark? Sometimes they just read and पहला पहला है उसको mark करके पढ़ते हैं आपने क्या इसका second survey भेजा किसी अलग pattern पे same questions पूछे so that you get to know that they are answering very relevant.
No, I did not send any follow-up surveys, but there were a couple of surveys. I'd say 3 surveys. Yeah,
Okay.
I sent out 3 surveys.
What kind of question they are? Subjective, objective, rating on
Subjective.
particular scale?
One was subjective type, one was rating. 2 were subjectives,
Okay.
and one was rating based, as you said. So a mark on a scale of 1 to 5.
All right.
Right. So, and the answers were, I would say, very mostly consistent. Some people, as you said, there are errors
Of
in
course, there are
errors in
some
sampling.
people assume that first one is the top answer. Some people
Yeah.
assume 5 is the top answer.
Yeah.
So there is always a fault in these kind
Yeah,
of surveys.
there are
right?
always going to be a
Subjectives.
percentage
Yes.
of people who are going to.
So how many responses did you get?
We got close to, I'd say, 100 responses.
Just 100 responses, right? And how many did you discard on this basis that they are not relevant, or the person has misjudged the question?
15, 20, I'd say,
15 to 20%.
because they were very inconsistent.
So the research carried just 80 responses, and that too a little bit biased, you would say.
I would add that mine was not the only survey that they used.
Okay.
They had a lot of people. That I worked with 15 or 16 interns. We all had to collect responses, and we all had to send our findings and submit our pooled resources. So they conducted their own research afterwards.
What does Soul Surfer do? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Relationship-based services. They marriage counseling. They provide therapy. I would broadly they provide therapy in regards to relationships, platonic, romantic, with your parents, whatever.
Okay. And where, how do they, like, is it all offline? Do they get their
They provide online services.
online service? Okay.
Why are you coming to MBA now? What is the major sole reason for that? And secondly, what stream have given option you would like to pursue with?
So coming to the why MBA part, so management has been a pervasive part of my life for as long as I can remember. I belong to a middle class family with a business background, and I have seen my father engage in the I would say I have seen my father sorry, just I'd like 1 second to form my sentence. So yeah, so I belong to a business background, and I've seen the problems faced by my father with regards to sometimes human resource management, with regards to finances, and those mainly pertain to the management problems in their entirety. So, and to understand this, to know better about how businesses are managed, how corporates solve their problems, I took up commerce, and then further led to my aptitude for economics. Okay, and I would say that economics and management are very correlated. They're very closely interlinked because the fundamental question in economics is how do we manage these limited resources within people, within infinite human needs, right? So they are very closely interlinked. So this led to my appreciation for management. This led to me pursuing post graduation in management. This led to my desire to pursue post graduation management. And coming to the streams part, specializations, I would like to keep my options open. I would like to currently explore finance, consulting, and marketing domains. And I would like to, play around a little. I would like to see where my aptitude and where my capabilities lie as of now.
What does a financial consultant do?
They uh, depends. If you are in risk management, if you are in wealth management, there are different profiles. But overall, you have to maintain and grow the finances of your client.
What is the difference between advertising and marketing?
Advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing is a very broad process that starts before the product is made and ends after the product is sold.
What are the 6 hours of marketing?
6 hours of
marketing.
I am not sure I've ever read it.
Okay.
I remember the 4 P's but not the 6 R's.
What are the 4 P's?
Product, price, place, and promotion.
Any recent book you have read on modern marketing?
Modern marketing? I don't think so.
Who's considered the father of marketing?
I have no idea. My specialization lies in economics. I have absolutely no idea regarding the intricacies of marketing at the moment.
You were there as a research intern. You mentioned your interest into marketing at the end, finance, marketing, and the other one.
Who won the Nobel Prize for economics this year?
Nobel Prize? I don't know. Sorry.
Right. Any extracurriculars? Yeah, I see 3 of A, right? What was the one which is close to you or where you enjoyed?
I'm going to mention one that is not in my resume.
And why is it not in your resume?
Because I don't have anything to show for it.
Okay.
So I participated in a research paper presentation at Venkateshwar College, and that I hold very close to my heart because it was a different field altogether. It was in sociology. I unknowingly prepared a paper in sociology, and that really fascinated me, the topic. And it was, I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to explain what the topic was. It was based on recidivism. That is, when a person is convicted, how likely is he to go back into the prison system? So that was my topic. I compared Scandinavian countries, mostly Switzerland and Denmark, with the USA, and the prison systems, how effective they are at reforming criminals and all that. So that was a topic that interested me and I worked very hard on it. So that was the...
Walk us through some of your findings from that research paper.
Maybe some comparison findings, some numbers again. I'm looking for the numbers. You mentioned with a minor in mathematics, you're not talking numbers anywhere.
My minor in mathematics was 2 semesters were comprised of calculus. That is not number based at all.
You opened another domain, calculus now. Anyways, walk us through the findings now.
So I found that the prison systems in Switzerland and Denmark, Scandinavian countries as a whole, were more effective. There were high correlation regressions. The regressions showed high correlation between, I would say, lenient punishments and better prisoner treatment facilities in regards to recidivism, that people were not likely...
In regards to what?
Recidivism.
Recidivism.
Yeah, that is how likely a person is to go back into the prison system when he's incarcerated.
Okay.
So I found there were very high regression correlations between when you treat prisoners with respect, by providing them with libraries, with providing them with better, I would say, prisons.
Okay.
So
they have less likelihood of...
they have a less likelihood of going back into the prison system. In Switzerland and Denmark, these places provide the, let's say, prison libraries are universal. They provide entertainment systems, they provide workshops in their prisons, which increase productivity, which do not, I'd say, hamper the productivity of the prisoners. They actually increase it and they help them assimilate into the society more. So US does not have any of these.
Okay.
US treats its prisoners like second-class citizens, and this is the reason why recidivism rates are very high in the US and very low in Scandinavian countries. In Scandinavian countries, 14.9% of people go back into the prison system, whereas in the US, it is more than half, somewhere around 64%.
To 64% of the people who have
Yeah,
come
if-
to the prison, they will go back to the
Yeah.
prison if they are left out, right?
Yeah.
So the high recidivism rate.
Yeah.
What about in India? How much is the percentage? Any idea?
In India, I tried to compare it, but there is absolutely no data available for recidivism.
Anyways, there is any comparison study more than US, less than US, or who is the best in this global index of recidivism?
The best would be Scandinavian country. The best is Switzerland,
Okay,
then Denmark.
all right.
These are the top two countries that I chose, and they rank the first and second recidivism rates.
So did you run a check or comparison with India? Of course, you don't have the numbers. The data
Yeah.
is not that much available.
Yeah.
But still, any comparison study that here we are more or less than a particular country. Let us say US.
The prisoners in India are not, I would say, in at par with US when we take population into account.
Yeah.
So the in India, I don't actually remember the numbers, but they were very comparable with US in regards to,
So almost 60% recidivism rate.
yeah, in India has very high recidivism because here we treat prisoners in not in a very, I
Do
would
we
say,
have
productive.
libraries here?
No, mostly no, I would say.
Not in even a single prison.
I am not aware of outliers, if any, but as a whole, prisons lack very basic say facilities that are required for uh, skill development and better assimilation of prisoners in the real world.
So you said you did proper linear regression. You
No,
tried to find out correlation.
I did not personally do the regressions. I found in my literature review, I found a lot of studies that had their regression, and I could not, obviously, because to do that I would have to go out and I had to collect. So I had to collect information.
Did you compute correlation by yourself or no?
No, I did not.
Okay. Do you not think that your study comparing two different countries brings in a lot of different variables also into the equation which you have not factored in?
Yeah, they.
See, if a study has to be done, for your key variable is the quality of the prison system is the variable, whether that impacts the
Yeah.
what do you call
Recidivism.
recidivism. If that impacts the recidivism or not,
Yeah.
is your key variable. The variable is the quality of prison system, right? If you just compare Scandinavian prisons with US prisons and the outcomes of recidivism, there could be a difference of the culture or
Yeah,
the
there
kind
is.
of people that there are.
Yeah.
You have to take prisons within a country so that you have the same set of people. You take out the equation of culture and everything.
Yeah,
So within Scandinavian countries, were you able to identify certain prisons that have better prison systems and certain prisons that have poorer? And there you are able to find a correlation. Okay, the one with poorer prison system has a higher rate of people going back to the prison, the recidivism rate. And because if you compare simply Scandinavian country with the US, there are other variables at play, right? There's cultural differences, there is different set of people altogether.
Yeah, Scandinavian countries have a very homogeneous population with regards to race, with regards to religion, ethnicity, while US is very varied. So this was a factor that I sort of thought about, and there have been studies where these effects have sort of been tried to minimize
How?
through a homogeneous prison population. Like, for example, Scandinavian countries, they are mostly Caucasian with regards to their race, and they mostly follow Christianity
Okay.
as a whole. So in the US, a few prison systems were in place that had these sort of populations, and uh, when these were compared, that obviously there would be some factors such as work ethic
No,
and
but
cultural
still, I
values.
mean, you taken out, let's say, assuming two prisons in US and Scandinavian country
Yeah.
both a similar race of
Yeah.
people, but there are a lot of factors at play, right? US as a society,
Yeah.
let's say somebody coming out of a prison in the US, the society as a whole is something that forces you to do things that you
Yeah.
end up then going back to the prison.
These
How do you take care of all those factors? You have to sort of, if you have to say that the quality of prison life in prison is going to have a correlation with readmission rate, it has to be taken within a certain area, right? Five prisons in that area having better prison systems, five having poorer, and then you compare, because everything else then all the other variables are not then at play. You have similar people, similar society outside. How could you simply compare like Scandinavian country with US? Completely different
so
populations, right?
I'm just going to, no, I'm not going to sort of contradict, I'm not going to argue, but I would say that this was not sort of very, I'd say, objective study. This was not that doing this would increase this by 50% or something. This was a qualitative study which focused more on the aspects that if this would happen, then prisoners would have a better chance of assimilating. This is
No,
not.
I'm also making an argument on the qualitative side of it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
there
exactly
are
is it
always
50%
there are
correlation.
always going to be factors that are not
Yeah,
factored
but
in.
you can take that factor out of the equation if you do this experiment within a country and have two sets of prison systems and then compare if there is a correlation. You can't compare a Scandinavian country with the US and then say
There's no direct comparison. These regressions have factored in a lot of variables. They have the ones that I did study and the ones that I did put in my research. They compared race, they compared your age profile, they compared your previous offense types. There were even different offenses. Like drug offenses have the highest recidivism rates.
okay.
So they factored in a lot of variables, and on the basis of that, I concluded that even after these variables are factored in, this thing would still hold.
ठीक है विनायक,
Let's move on.
ये आपने यहाँ मेंशन किया एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेटेड इन मैनेजिंग 3 annual events of the college with some small scale events. What were these events? What was the number of the people who were participating in this event? क्या था ये?
With regards to
This
okay, so the
एक
annual
part
events
से-
or the small scale events?
annual events, managing 3 annual events.
The annual events had an attendance of close to 1,000 people. When you factor in the people who have sort of not concurrently but at different points of time, they amounted to close to 1,000 people.
Who were these people? Students?
Yeah, the students, the Delhi University students,
All right.
and the faculty members.
What was the event about and what was your role?
These were the college annual fests, all of these.
Okay.
So my role was to oversee the people and the competitions.
All right.
Yeah, I had to.
What people? Was there a team or you were looking for the people who were coming?
No, we had a team, and we had to sort of, I'd say, manage the. Just a second. And we had to manage the competition schedules. We had to wrap if the schedule said that we have to start our next event by 5 o'clock. Then we had to wrap up the previous event by 4:30, and we were tasked with.
So you were given a schedule and you were responsible to continue with that schedule. That events happen in a certain time, right? At that time, so you have to run the schedule, right? Okay.
Mostly event management.
Mostly event management. All right. And how many events were you handling? 1 day, 2 day, or how many events were there in a day? How many events did you handle?
I handled in the annual fest. I handled 2 or 3 events per fest.
Per fest. All right. And all these events, 1 per day or 2 per day? What was the number?
1 per day.
1 per day. And,
And-
the event had how many people?
And
involved?
the audience I cannot account for, but
Still a number, a rough number, hundreds, thousands, 200.
somewhere close to 200.
Somewhere close to 200. How many were the moderators?
Sorry.
How many were the moderators who were moderating the event?
Moderators, as in the judges who were.
Whatever, judges or maybe the students, the anchors,
Okay,
right? Your
so-
team members.
So there were 5 judges, and there were in every event we have a sort of quota of 10 teams.
All right. So basically, 10 core members and 200 participants, right? And you were the person who were aligning these 210 people to go sit there and perform the event. And then you have to take care of that event starts at the given time and ends at the given time, is it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, what were the major challenges you faced, and what were the learnings? I would say that you must have done this for your personal growth, right?
Yeah.
So, what were the skills you think you gained from there, and how they'll help you in your future, and maybe if you go in MBA?
So the college I belong to, it has a very active political body.
Okay.
So the events were in the initial stages. Events used to be disrupted a lot due to political influence, because these happened at the height of the Delhi University Student Union elections. So these people barged in and just used to barge in and just start campaigning in front of everyone. So
Okay.
I think from what the key learnings I had from these experiences was conflict resolution. We as a team, we used to sort of help them, not help them. We used to what was the word? I forgot the word. But we used to de-escalate the situations. Like, maybe you can campaign after this. Maybe we have a 10-minute break. You can campaign in this break. So conflict resolution was one thing. Then obviously handling people requires a lot of management and leadership skills. So I think the coordination part was event coordination was one thing I learned, and that's about it. I can
Yes, I'm
summarize.
done.
Sure, I think that's all. I don't have any more questions.
All right. All right. ठीक है विनायक. So how was your experience? How do you think that? How did it go?
It's for me, it's always okay until the result arrives. Then we'll assess how we perform.
ठीक है. तो थोड़ा जनरल फीडबैक करते हैं. इंटरव्यू भी एंड हो गए. ठीक है. तो कुछ कुछ तो शॉर्टकमिंग्स हैं, है ना? मेरे हिसाब से ये है कि आपको कोई भी क्वेश्चन जब पूछा जाता है ना, तो आप तुरंत आंसर देने लगते हो, और फिर होता क्या है कि यू आर लैक ऑफ द वर्ड्स और सेंटेंसेस, एंड देन यू जस्ट स्पीक्स दिस आउट कि गिव मी 5 minutes, let me frame the sentences, which is not good. It is okay to take a pause for 2 to 3 seconds, think of the sentence and then come up with it, rather than mentioning it. It's okay to be quiet or taking a pause. It's okay, absolutely okay. But saying that I want 5 minutes to make a sentence does not make sense.
Especially after you have started
The sentence, and now you're keeping them waited, right? So now they're waiting कि चलो ठीक है विनायक sentence खत्म करेगा बोलेगा, right? And again the things like, if you're mentioning mathematics here, you have to have the basic knowledge, because if a maths freak sit in your interview, he'll ask, I asked a very basic question, x square को पैराबोला कब बनता है, वहाँ पे भी आप अटके थे. और अगर आपने वीक है मान लेते हैं, एक चीज़ हमें पता है, वहाँ पे आप कैलकुलस ओपन कर दे रहे होगे. मैं फिर सीधा सवाल अगला वो ऐसे क्वेश्चंस भी आ चुके हैं कि the interviewer asked the interviewer कि भाई find out the volume of a cylinder which I can carve, maximum volume of cylinder which I can carve out from the sphere of radius r, और दे देगा आपका रिज्यूमे उल्टा करके ले बना फिर कर वहाँ फंस जाओ, right? So when you are bringing in a new channel of discussion, you should be ready to take the questions for that. Like recidivism को आप लेके आए, right? अगर आप एक ही पर्टिकुलर कंट्री के बारे में बता दोगे तो ठीक है. जैसे ही आपने इन्वॉल्व किया कि मैंने भी कंपैरिजन किया था, अब तो हम डिगिन करना चाहेंगे कि भाई हम किस जगह पे हैं, क्योंकि इफ इट इज अ न्यू टॉपिक फॉर मी, मान लेते हैं आई हैव नॉट रेड अबाउट इट और आई हैव नॉट रिसर्च अबाउट इट, आई वुड बी वेरी क्यूरियस टू नो दैट वेयर इंडिया लाइज इन रेसिडिविज्म, राइट? आई विल बी क्यूरियस टू नो दैट in what particular aspect or what particular crime this rate is very high, like you mentioned about drug. The second follow-up question could be why in the drugs, right? And what about the murder crimes, right? So you should have all those answers ready. See, if this was you who brought this social study into the picture, that was not mentioned here, you had the entirely, we would have never gone to that, right? So if you are bringing that picture in front of the interviewers, you have to be ready with all the questions. It's good that you stood your ground somewhere. I tried to move around, but you were nice and मैंने वो सर्वे ठीक किया, मैं अकेला नहीं था, मैं 10 लोग में था. That is a very valid point. 80 लोगों का सर्वे बड़ा छोटा हो जाता है, then you bring in the numbers. But अब जैसे पॉपुलेशन वाला चीज़ आया, नहीं पता, सॉरी सर, बट अगर अंडर टू अंडर मोर देन टू, सॉरी सर, खत्म। आप अगर ओपन कर दोगे सर 1.45 से 1.55 कैलकुलेशन करने बैठे, खुद को 5 मिनट के लिए ब्लॉक कर दिया, राइट? या तो आपको अपनी कैलकुलेशन पे भरोसा है और आपको इन दोनों नंबर्स पे भरोसा है, तो रादर देन कैलकुलेटिंग द परसेंटेज, आप पहले बोल दो कि सर लास्ट ईयर इट वाज 1.45, दिस ईयर इट इज 1.55, बट यू हैव टू कीप दैट फैक्ट चेक्ड, ठीक है? अब आपने बोल दिया, उसको पूछना होगा अगला क्वेश्चन कि टेल मी इन परसेंटेज, नाउ यू हैव इनफ टाइम टू कैलकुलेट इन द परसेंटेज, आप मन में परसेंटेज सोच रहे हो, है ना? तो आप अटक गए, ठीक है? लेट हिम फिनिश, yes you have a valid point, let him finish and then come with the point which sir I had 10 surveys, I was just one of them, right? Make sentences before you speak। मेरे ख्याल से काफ़ी सारी बातें अनक्लियर चली जाती हैं जब आप बहुत हैंग कर रहे हो, आपने बीच में 5 मिनट भूल गया पुरानी चीज़, राइट? तो उन चीज़ों पे थोड़ा सा वर्क करना पड़ेगा, राइट? ये अच्छा है वैसे, आपका जो सोशल एस्पेक्ट को शो करता है, दैट शोज योर EQ एज वेल, कि भाई इमोशनल क्वेश्चन टुवर्ड्स द सोसाइटी, बिल्डिंग ऑफ द सोसाइटी है, और फ्यूचर में हो सकता है इफ सम project comes under you, you have already done research about it. This is a very important thing because most of the people who do the crime are the repeat criminals, right? So you can resolve that if you come up with good ideas. तो वो अच्छा aspect है, a good edge to your things है, right? But a lot of things here are based on marketing, junior marketing, market research. Then you mentioned the stream, तीसरा marketing बोला, और marketing के बारे में इतना idea नहीं है, आपको समझ में आ गया होगा, you need not to mention those areas. उनमें पढ़ना शुरू करो, right? Bobby sir would like to add few points.
Yes. So Vinayak, देखो 2-3 चीज़ें I really liked of yours. One is your CV. It has substance. There are a lot of things that people, क्योंकि बहुत ही सारी different types की, you have a broad profile. You've covered a lot of things. You have college fest to talk about.
Yeah.
Social wala, this project that you did. You said it's close to your heart. And then economics, mathematics, and everything. So a lot of things that you have already gotten in your CV. The issue is, in MBA interview panelists, these guys like to go into the depth of anything that you could show that you are knowledgeable in that. Unfortunately, there was nothing we could find जिसमें we could get the confidence that हाँ इसको अब इसके depth में लेके जाते हैं. You have to prepare 2-3 things from your CV जिसको आप मतलब इतना confident रहो कि इसके अराउंड आप कुछ भी पूछ लो मुझसे, नंबर पूछ लो, हिस्ट्री ज्योग्राफी कौन सी कंट्रीज में ज़्यादा अच्छा है या खराब है, I know all the facts about this particular thing, and that can be a lot of things. You have a lot of things in your CV, so you just have to prepare. किसी से इकोनॉमिक्स की बात आती है, हमने स्टार्टिंग में पूछा GDP किस कंट्री की कितनी है, क्या नंबर है, पॉपुलेशन पे गया, राइट? तो अब यस फैक्ट्स नहीं थे, आप you're not even confident where we could see कि हाँ इसको अब इसके अंदर
और अपना आंसर चेंज किए, मतलब
so then we have to jump from one thing to another. अच्छा ठीक है, maybe next thing that comes up he knows this thing in better detail. Even this is soul surfer आपका जो work experience है, right? You can, if you like, maybe you have not done a lot of things in your research project क्योंकि you were only an intern, but आप अपनी story prepare कर सकते हो, right? कि मैंने ये भी किया, मैंने वो भी किया. Problem is when we drill you on questions, you come up with defensive answers. I was not alone. There were 80 interns, which is like downplaying your own role. You're saying कि हाँ I had only 100 responses, 80 of them were sort of valid, but 80 is a small number. I have an answer for this because I was not the only guy. There were a lot of us, so my role is very limited. Why take us down to that rabbit hole? आप अपना ऐसा experience starting से ही paint करो कि यार ये research तो मैंने ही lead करी थी. We got 1,000 responses. We got this is how we were able to sort of filter out responses that we thought were outliers. This is what we did to normalize. But आप वो डेप्थ में हम लोग को ले जा नहीं पाए. आपने बस एक दो वर्ड्स थ्रो आउट किए, बट वी कुड फिगर आउट कि आप इसमें डेप्थ नहीं था. एंड यू देन योरसेल्फ गिव अवे कि आई वाज नॉट द अलोन इंटरव्यू.
कुछ जगह जहाँ आपने स्टैंड लिया वो मेरे को अच्छा लगा, है ना? और जैसे सर बोल रहे हैं ना कि एक जगह को इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग कर लो, सी इट इज अबाउट द ईगो क्लैश. आप कुछ भी लेके आओगे ना, इंटरव्यू का काम आपको तोड़ेगा उस जगह, और आपका काम है कि एक चीज़ को ऐसे पकड़ना जिस पे आप कभी टूट ना सको, जिस पे आप एकदम इन डेप्थ तक जाओ कि मेरे को तोड़ने में मेहनत लगे. ऐसा ना हो कि 2 क्वेश्चन के बाद विनायक बोल्ड हो गया, राइट? मेरे को मतलब ग्रिल करना पड़ेगा, एंड आई ऑल्सो नीड टू हैव दैट इन डेप्थ नॉलेज इन दैट पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक टू टेक यू डाउन देयर, राइट? सो इट शुड टेक सम टाइम टू मी. ऐसा नहीं कि पॉपुलेशन जैसी बोला मैंने ग्रोथ पूछ जगह खत्म हो गया, बोल्ड, राइट? विद जीडीपी की टॉप 5 की बात हुई, अगले ने बोला, मैंने बोला आर यू श्योर, मे बी इंटरव्यू डज नॉट नो, बोला आर यू श्योर, बोले डर आएगा, डर गए, खत्म हो गया, राइट? बोल्ड नहीं है इतना एक टॉप। और अब ये आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कि जिस टॉपिक को आप ढंग से पढ़ के गए हो, how you take the panel towards that topic. You will get the chance.
Yeah.
You got the chance
And
to
you
take
will
us
get the
to
chance also
yes.
to steer panelists through.
Yes. आप लेके गए होंगे रेसिडेंशियल में मेंशन भी नहीं था आप लेके गए है ना, तो उसके बारे में पूरा जान से पढ़ लो कि आप वो डिस्कशन बन जाता।
बट एंड में आके आपका रिस्पांस ये था कि अल्टीमेटली व्हाट इट सीम्ड टू मी वाज दैट यू रेड सर्टेन पेपर्स एंड केम अप विद this factor is the highest correlate. I could not make out what is the exact contribution you had in this particular research paper. It seemed more like reading a bunch of papers and coming up with that this is the
be very clear with your thoughts. मतलब जैसे मेरे को आपको ग्रिल करके निकालना पड़ा कि ये काम क्या था, कितने बंदे थे, आप क्या कर रहे थे, क्या हो रहा था. You sir, I was the event manager maintaining these things.
On this one, I have a feedback. I don't know what was your actual role there, but I can tell you, आपने जिस तरह से explain किया ना, ये role नहीं था आपका. इस particular fest में. You started with the schedule. आपने बोला कि I was managing the schedule of it, right? And then you came down to कि there was 2 or 3 events per fest and 1 event per day. अब 1 event का schedule manage कर रहे हो क्या? Because starting में you said कि I had to ensure कि सारे events एक के बाद एक time पे start हुए, time पे खत्म हुए. Is what I was managing. But then eventually it came down to just 1 event in the day. How can
No, these are multiple. These fests are held over multiple days.
right?
नहीं, we understand that. What he is trying to say कि जब आप टाइम टेबल मेंशन करते हो ना, हमें लगता है कि पूरे दिन की रिस्पांसिबिलिटी आपकी है.
एक दिन में 10 इवेंट हो रहे होंगे. You have to ensure कि 10 से 11 जो इवेंट है
वो खत्म
टाइम पे खत्म हो रहा है. Then 11 वाला टाइम पे स्टार्ट हो रहा है. But then you came out कि नहीं, एक दिन में एक ही इवेंट में मैनेज कर रहा था. And then your role switched to event management. You started with scheduling, people management, and then you moved to event management. That's not a coherent story.
I'll explain the timeline. So it's a very broad job profile. It's not that I have to just manage the schedule.
I understand that. कॉलेज में आप जब करते हो बहुत सारे रोल्स आपको करने पड़ते हैं. आपको कोई ऐसा कोई दिया नहीं जाता कि और इवेंट मैनेजर है ये दैट. कॉलेज के फेस्ट ऐसे होते हैं. बट व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू से इज कि अगर हम कंफ्यूज हो सकते हैं तो वो भी होंगे. प्लान
आपकी स्टोरी ना कोहेरेंट नहीं थी. Is what I'm trying to say. आपने स्टार्टिंग में बोला कि I was managing the schedule, then you went to people management, eventually you came down to event management. आप एक स्टोरी रखो. आप या तो ये बता दो कि मेरा इस फेस्ट में ये इवेंट था, इस इवेंट को मैं होल एंड सोल मैनेज कर रहा था स्टार्ट टू एंड, कि इसमें स्टूडेंट्स कितने पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, जजेस टाइम पे आ गए कि नहीं, जजेस कैसे जज करेंगे, उनको क्या एसओपी देना है, फिर स्टूडेंट्स को हमने ग्रुप्स में डिवाइड किया, व्हाटएवर. लाइक दैट्स एन इवेंट मैनेजमेंट स्टोरी. आइदर स्टार्ट से एंड तक वही बिल्ड करो, उसी पे रहो कि मैं इवेंट मैनेज कर रहा हूं.
जो आपने कर रखा है,
आपने स्टार्टिंग में समझाया कि मैं शेड्यूल मैनेज कर रहा था पूरे फेस्ट का, फिर आप आए कि नहीं मैं पीपल मैनेज कर रहा था, फिर आप बोलने लगे कि नहीं मैं इवेंट मैनेज कर रहा था, उसमें 5 जजेस थे. तो द स्टोरी वाज नॉट कोहेरेंट.
पहले लाइन में ऐसा लगता है कि विनायक कमरे में बैठा हुआ एक्सेल पे एक टाइम टेबल बना रहा है और उसने दे दिया 10 बंदों को तुम्हारा टाइम टेबल फॉलो करो.
करेक्ट.
दूसरे में से लगता है कि विनायक वाला बंदा है जिसको ये इवेंट 4 असाइन हुआ और इसको ये 4 इवेंट जो है अपने टाइम पे शुरू करवाना है, अपने टाइम पे खत्म करवाना है. राइट. वेरी क्लियर कि भाई देखो हमारा 4 दिन का फेस्ट है, 40 इसमें ये होने थे इवेंट्स. मेरे को 4 इवेंट्स का टास्क दिया गया था जिसमें मेरे को ये 140 बंदे, जिसमें 100 कंप्यूटर्स थे ऑन एवरेज, 10 स्पीकर्स थे, 4 जजेस थे, इनको इकट्ठा करके टाइम पे स्टार्ट टाइम पे खत्म करवाना था विदाउट एनी हर्डल्स. राइट. और फिर उस हर्डल में मेंशन करो अपना ये वाला जो आपका कैंपेनिंग. नाउ इट बिकम्स वेरी क्लियर टू मी, है ना. मैं कंफ्यूज नहीं होना चाहिए. आपको पता है आपने वो जर्नी जी है 3-4 दिन, मैंने थोड़ी जी है, मैं तो 5 मिनट के लिए आपसे मिल रहा हूँ. तो वो क्लियरिटी आनी चाहिए. दैट इज व्हाई आई एम सेइंग कि मन में आंसर सोचो कि जब आपको जब सेंटेंस बनाने का मौका मिल रहा है 3 सेंटेंस में आप जो बोलना चाह रहे हैं वो थॉट क्लियरली हमारे तक पहुंच जाए, जो पहुंच नहीं पा रही है व्हाट ही इज ट्राइंग टू मेंशन. ठीक है. बाकी अच्छा है. आई विल रेट यू ओवरऑल 3.5 समवेयर डाउन द लाइन जस्ट बिकॉज़ यू आर थिंकिंग टू मच व्हाइल स्पीकिंग. और वो बीच में हो रहा है. वो अगर शुरू में पॉज होगा आई वोंट माइंड दैट. राइट. और बीच में होगा वो स्टोरी लूज हो जाती है यार. मेरे को इंटरेस्ट नहीं आएगा आपकी स्टोरी में. और आपका काम ये है कि मैं आप में इंटरेस्टेड हूँ, है ना. और थोड़े से नंबर्स अपने रिफाइन करो. जो भी मेंशन कर रहे हो, अभी कैलकुलस मेंशन कर रहे हैं, पूछ लेगा सारा चीज, है ना. मेंशन ही मत कर, मत लेगा कैलकुलस. 2-4 मैथ्स से क्वेश्चन में खत्म कर देगा. एक आप प्रोबेबिलिटी पूछ लेगा, ग्राफ खत्म. मैथ्स का इंटरव्यू नहीं है. और वो बस ऑफ गार्ड करने के लिए पूछ रहा है. उसके बीच में कहीं अचानक से क्वेश्चन डाला मैंने, टेल मी व्हाट इज द IIM, वो वहां से स्टार्ट नहीं होता. ये सब इंटरनेट पे स्टार्ट होता है सारे इंटरव्यू वहां से, वरना कभी भी नहीं होते. आई लाइक दैट यू नो देश बंदे कॉलेज वाला, दिस इज गुड. ऐसे सारी चीज छान ले. ठीक है. एंड करते हैं सर.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinayak.